to stigmatize and discriminate against people with mental illness in Asian countries, how we can overcome the stigma and educate the public about it. So I refer this question to Puan Sarima. Puan Sarima. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
What exactly is your question? Sorry.
Okay, so how we want to overcome the stigma and educate the public about the stigmatized and discrimination against people with mental illness in Asian countries.
Oh, I see. Well, that is a very detailed question. If you're asking to how we specifically can do it, you mean us
how
as
we want to overcome this?
Okay. Well, we always want to overcome this, of course, because this is the primary reason why there is a stigma. So unless we have a change and a shift in the perception, the general public itself need to change how they see and perceive mental health conditions. For example, the media plays a huge role in how they describe or show mental health conditions. A lot of the time, our communities mengharapkan, informasi dari media, dari segi entertainment especially. So apa they see dalam drama ataupun TV shows ataupun film, itulah menjadi reality, because that's how human beings work and that's how culture and society is. So some of the things we can do as individuals, I mean, unless you own a TV station yourself, you can't exactly censor and limit, what you do. And of course, producers and whatnot need to be more aware, script writers, and be more sensitive and hopefully engage people with knowledge like Dr. Hazli and people who understand mental health conditions on a deeper level before they decide to integrate mental health themes in their shows. Often, sometimes in local TV, in Asian shows in general, not just Malaysia, you will see a depiction of someone with a mental health condition who's lost the plot. The mother who is meroyan, as they call it, etc., or the drug addict that just happened to become a drug addict tiba-tiba dan kena buang keluarga, etc., etc. So all these stigmas do not show the complete story of the individual. A very famous speaker and Dr. Gabor Mate always says, do not ask why the addiction, but ask why the pain. Because every mental health condition has a root cause, be it biological, psychological, sociological, or a combination of many factors. And because of that, there's also a combination of many factors that can help an individual: biological, psychological, could be medication, could be social support, could be therapy, could be spiritual support and whatnot. So because there are so many factors that can actually contribute towards having a mental health condition, there are also many factors that contribute towards helping a person heal from a mental health condition. I mean, I myself, all of us, I believe everybody in this talk has a mental health challenge at least once or twice in their lives in varying degrees. Be it insomnia causing you, panic, or be it a trauma that's happened to you in your childhood. Childhood adversity experiences can lead towards, having mental health conditions. There's a huge correlation, and Dr. Hazi, I'm sure, can talk to you about that. He is more in the knowledge of these scientific parts. However, in terms of changing and approaching things on a personal level, we can provide support. Be it to our friends, to our family members, simple things like somebody shares something online about how they're feeling, having a bad day, you can reach out to them. You can say, I'm here to listen. No judgment. Jangan menghukum, jangan nak, punish someone for having feelings. We live in a society where punishing a person for having feelings seems to be the norm because we're so focused on achieving. We're more focused on achieving than we are focused on feeling. And I always said, and recently I just observed in my further education that, one of the professors I was studying with mentioned that everybody has a bit of a mental illness issue. It's just a matter of how you cope with it. And it's a matter of how you treat it. And, having family members who also have mental health condition, it can be a challenge. Like Juanita mentioned also, even about the family systems there. It's a challenge because Not everybody perceives mental health conditions the same way. You might have a father and a mother who are old school about it. Malu, jangan cerita kat orang, as Dr. Hazli said. But yet you yourself might be more educated on it and wish to help. Then the question is, how do you get that person help without also disempowering them? Because kita tak nak society yang memaksa. Of course, we want zero coercion. So you can't drag somebody to get help, but yet you don't want to sit and wait and watch somebody disintegrate mentally. So the challenge is there. But I believe now, like, what was mentioned, we have more facilities to assist with mental health. We have the NGOs, we have the clinics, we have more knowledge. That's more important, and awareness. And I hope, small steps that we make today are part of a bigger history where we as Malaysians are able to accept each other. Physical problems, mental problems, spiritual issues, it's what makes us a human being. So why should we have stigma about each of these? Kalau kaki dah nak terputus, we won't tell somebody, tunggu je lah, nanti okay. So if your heart is broken, like Dr. Hazli mentioned, why should you suffer alone? You need to find help. And just lastly, before I finish, recently I posted something on my social media, and I got a very strong response to this. I said, a lot of us will spend money on our hair, our body, our personal trainers, taking holidays, taking on more work, etc. And we spend so much time and money doing all these things. But when we are asked, have you sought out help for the marriage issues or your past traumas or whatever is burdening and affecting your life? And the answer is usually, no lah, tak ada masa lah, and I can't afford it. Is it really about not having the time and not being able to afford it, or is it just not a priority sometimes for us as human beings? So that's it from me, Putri, for now.
Yeah, really, I love what you share on your IG story on how people don't want to spend money for mental health, since it is actually essential now, because people are afraid and think that because some people who have the mental health issues, it's not like the person who have a very well and stable income, right?
Yeah, it's not about that they don't want. A lot of the times people are not sure where to go, and yes, they don't know what is available to them. So that's where the gap is. Not knowing where the help is. And also then you have to get past the stigma and taboo within each individual and each keluarga and each budaya that's within every family. So it's a very big thing, but I always believe it starts with yourself,
Yes, correct. Correct. Like what Dr. Hazli has mentioned before, all these people have actually increased the barriers in this stigma actually, because they feel afraid to approach to the psychiatrist or any campaign or awareness.
It could be.
Correct.
It could be that, but it could also be just not knowing in themselves that they perhaps need help. And that is a challenge for those who are observing around the person, But at the end of the day, there's no shame in having any condition, whether it's a toothache, a diabetes, or mental health condition. The question is, do we keep coping with it, using more work, using more holidays, buying more new things? Or do we stop and ask ourselves, what do I need?
Yes, true. So the element of pride and honor are very essential in Asian household. Therefore, the concept of perceived mental illness as sign of weakness and shame to the family is very common in the community, like what Dr. Haji has said and also what Miss Anita has mentioned before. Dia macam nak jaga air muka like that. So, in your opinion, Cik Puan, do you think we need to challenge the traditional values that are deeply rooted in our cultures, especially in the older generation? If we do, how are we going to do? Are we going to do it without being disrespectful towards them? And can these values help us navigate the challenges for today?
One, Putri.
Excuse me?
That's 3 questions in one there. Okay, to try and address it as a whole, at the end of the day, your key word is deep-rooted. So deep-rooted is something that has taken a long time to form, like a perception or an understanding. And to undo it will also take quite a while. Because for humans, we will only change something sometimes when things hit rock bottom and when it has really, really affected our lives in a negative way. And even then, there are such people who are emotionally addicted to the hormones related to trauma and tragedy. So it's a very deep rooted subject, and many, many factors are interplaying here. But for the older people, I believe the only approach that we can take is to show them, because the older generation are very conclusive. They like to see the results based, so if you show them, because we're doing this is the effect, they will be able to see it clearer. If we just say, I think we need to do this and this, they probably will be a bit more, not say stubborn, but reluctant to change. But when you show people directly that because of this is happening, and there's more, an actual relation to it, I think they can have an understanding. But you definitely do need the assistance of a professional, like a therapist, for example, to highlight issues. But how do you get the older generations to go and see Dr. Hazli? Now, that's the question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Perhaps Dr. Hazli himself will be able to elaborate on how he's approached these people in his own practice, because he would be better suited to answer this for you, I believe.
Yes, correct. So, Dr. Hazli, do you have any opinion regarding this question?
Okay.
You want to share?
Yeah, thank you, Cik Puan. So give me the chance to share. Very true. You know that if first and foremost, it's not easy to be a parent. I think Puan Anita, Cik Puan Sarima agree with me, right? There is no textbook to tell us how to be a parent. We want to be the best parent, but very difficult. I don't think it can be. It's not achievable. But being good enough parent is the best. Putri, when you are become a parent later, you know. As a parent, right, we tell our kids, you have to fight for your right. You have to tell the truth. You have to tell when there is a mistake, and then you should voice out whatever that you are not happy with. But when the kids tell their own parents about their parents' mistake, what happened to them? They are being scolded. And then they will say, oh, anak derhaka, tak cium bau syurga. And then, what the parents try to say, you have to be strong, be open to fight when you're dealing with others.
I wonder how many dead one-planet
With
civilizations there are out there in the cosmos.
You have to know who's the boss.
Maybe they're among us.
This is the double standard that create the confusion to the youth, to the young people. What is it's all about? I totally agree with Anita when Anita said the youth, they are much better aware and have a better knowledge thanks to the school, the education system. Cik Puan Sarima also mentioned that the awareness has increased among the youth compared to the older generation. But we have to remember, Putri, sometimes it's not the parent do not understand. They understand their children having issues, but the reason they did not come forward to seek help, they're afraid that they are going to be scolded by the doctors, to be blamed by the therapist, by the professional for not be able to look after their children well, for making the children having all the mental health issues. So the important for us to remove the blame when the parents and even when the client, the person come to seek help. Don't make them think it was their mistake for them to have all the problems. And then we also have to be mindful to not to make the parents think that they're responsible for their children's having poor mental health. And then we going to start the conversation. Once they know this is no one's mistake, no one's error, then we start talking about how we can find a solution, a strategies to move forward, not move on, move forward. Even though it's slightly looks similar but different. So the idea is the understanding that things happen for many reasons, as Cik Puan Sarima mentioned. It's not just one reason make person having these mental health problems, not because of pandemic only. We have all these issues even before pandemic. It's a multifactorial from biology, psychology, social, spiritual aspect for the person to develop. I always mention this when I share information. For us to have mental illness, sorry to use the word gila, for us to be gila very difficult. But for us to be gila-gila, buat gila very easy. We can berlakon kan, Cik Puan Sarima, to be, even though it's not that easy, because when it comes to see me, I can tell which one is real, have the real problem, or which one who want for us to think that they have a problem. So the important that I want to establish or I want to mention is get assessment. From that, we know what are the risks for this person to develop mental illness, or if they already develop or already having the mental issues, what are the severity of the problems that they have. And then we can match to the strategies that to help this person. If this person need to get to take medicine, take it. It's not because the condition is severe. Maybe because we want to shorten the experience of pain that this person have. If the person at this moment not having the illness yet, they probably have to go take a vacation and then get their stress level reduced. So that is how we should do it. The problem is we do not collaborate. We do not talk to each other. In fact, among the mental health professional, we are not collaborating and not talking. In fact, jumpa ustaz, jangan makan ubat ni, nanti dia akan bertembung. Jumpa psychiatrist, jangan jumpa ustaz, nanti bertembung. Apa yang bertembungnya? And then we are also do not understand every strategist takes their own pace, not just have to do everything at the same time. Otherwise, we become very tired and not going to have the process of recovery. So the whole idea is how can we collaborate and make the persons know when is the time for them to see clinical psychologists, to see help from MIASA, to go and get something important to help them believe in themselves again. Because of that, finding them an employment or maintaining them to continue being employed is a part of the treatment. It's a part of the domain of treatment of the social part. The problem with us, we tend to have this kind of reductive or reductionist mentality. This complex problem, we always think, oh, only one problem that causes these complex problems and one solution can fix everything. How naive we are. And because of this naivety, or I would say stupidity, make us not able to move forward. So please be open enough to know that it's not just one cause that contribute all of this, and then please don't find someone to get the blame. So if we want to blame someone, blame everyone.
Yes, correct. I do agree. Do not find someone to blame. Okay, so the inclusion of mental health in Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations has shown that the issue is extremely concerning and is now seen as ultimate challenge in public health worldwide. So, Puan Anita, do you believe that society has made progress in terms of mental health with regards to not just raising awareness, but also of society's acceptance and validation of those with mental illness? After listening to Dr. Hazli and Puan Cik Sarima to have like their own opinion, exchanging ideas about that. So what do you understand about that one?
Okay, thank you very much, Putri. Yes, we definitely have made a lot of progress in Malaysia. If we look at how everything has progressed, right? In 2019, mental health finally made it as part of the national health agenda. So that was a huge milestone, after so many years, right? And I think that now today we see how NGOs, especially peer groups, are now more involved in the discussions with the ministry, with policymakers and the government as a whole. So that in itself is progress. We are now acknowledged for the work that we do. The government realizes that, you know, NGOs on the ground play a very big role in filling up, you know, whatever gaps that exist. And, you know, we're very happy. And now we see decriminalization of suicidal attempts moving forward. So that's also another huge progress, I have to say. So all in all, we understand that whatever that we're advocating for on the ground, the government is actually listening to it. We see how via last year's national budget, there was a special allocation for the expansion of psychosocial support. So that was huge, although it was just 24 million. And then via the stimulus package that came about via COVID-19, 15 million, although we haven't gotten the money, but at least the announcement is already there. And then, of course, the recent budget announcement, very, very happy because this was the first time that, you know, via MOF, NGOs and also social enterprises, civil society as a whole was actually empowered to provide inputs and views on what is needed on the ground. So very happy about that. And it has now translated with the 70 million announcement, not only on expansion of psychosocial support and counseling, but the acknowledgement that they want to empower NGOs to create programs, mental health programs on the ground. And although we've done it, you know, all NGOs on the ground, that's, you know, a lot of the work that we do, but at least now the acknowledgement is given. So very, very happy. So if we want to talk about progress, definitely there's progress. And like I mentioned, the pandemic has really helped. And we see now more social movements coming out, you know, more NGOs coming through, and also a lot of mental health advocates today, and also the normal people talking about it. So that in itself really helps. We see an influx of information on social media right now. We see people sharing posters on helplines, hotlines, resources, even you know, asking the society to follow mental health, you know, NGOs, social enterprises, all of these different pages and Instagram accounts, Twitter, etc. So obviously, Putri, that is the shift that we are currently seeing, but I'm hoping more things on social inclusion or improving social inclusion, and also life chances for people with mental health condition, because that sustainable model is what we don't have currently. And so I hope that throughout all these conversations that we will be able to do that. And, you know, I'm more about talking about action and how can we do this. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a few solutions. So hopefully the youth can also think about it. One, first and foremost, are the campaigns that we're running, right? We can do a lot of campaigns, but throughout campaigns that have been done for the past 20 years, the most effective ones are, one, the strategy of having people with lived experience championing it. So when we talk about people with lived experience, the ordinary people that have a mental health condition, right? So the housewife, the students, you know, a person that works as an executive in a company, for example. Two, are the public figures with mental health disorders. So really the most effective ones aren't public figures with mental health disorders, because the normal people can't relate, but it's actually the ordinary people with mental health conditions. So they first and foremost must come forward. So that is one of the most effective ways really in having, you know, all these different conversation and making that huge shift sebenarnya, Putri. So that's one solution, betul? Okay, keduanya sebenarnya adalah task shifting or task sharing. Ini kita dah banyak cakap. Empowering the community sebenarnya, Putri, because empowering the community doesn't mean I need to teach you any skills at all. Even if you understand resources of mental health, that in itself, you now become a resource. So itu pun dah cukup sebenarnya for you to be able to help a person and nobody gets left behind. Itu kedua, right? So that's very important. The third thing is, obviously, if we can do more bigger things, right? Providing, for example, supported accommodation, low-cost housing, providing supported employment, because a lot of people with mental health disorders do fall through the cracks of the system, especially, for example, you know, they go through a chronic or severe mental health disorder. Macam Dr. Aziz cakap tadi, a lot of people that reach out for the help usually we're not comparing, but anxiety, depression, personality disorder selalunya yang keluar mendapatkan bantuan. But the severe and the chronic ones, they are the ones that are not able to. You know, there's a lot of shame, diorang takut, they don't know how, people are not helping them. So it's very easy for them to fall through the cracks of the system. Caregivers dah meninggal dunia, and then people don't want to give them work, and then they don't have a place to live. And then they get, orang kata, a reoccurrence of episodes of relapse. And then it reinforces stigma, because then people say, Puan Anita, kan betul orang yang ada penyakit mental sebenarnya tak boleh bekerja, sebenarnya tak boleh sembuh contohnya. So a sustainable model kan Putri sebenarnya is what is important. So when you talk about SDGs tadi, penting dekat sini, I know a lot of people always think, okay Puan Anita, kita fokus SDG number 3. It is not just about SDG number 3, Putri and everyone. When you talk about mental health, when you talk about disability inclusive, we need to be part of all SDGs. You talk about quality education for all. You talk about sanitization, whatever, it's for all. You talk about health, it's for all. So don't think when you talk about mental health, it's only SDG 3, guys. No, okay? It's everything. This is how you become an inclusive society. So when you run campaigns, again, we talk about improved social inclusion. How do we do that? Youth, I empower you and I challenge you today. Think about this, okay? Because we want to create a better generation, a safer generation where nobody gets left behind. And let me tell you, people with mental health disorders, people with disabilities are the people that are left furthest in the context of inclusion and in the context of human rights. So check that out. Not only SDGs, but UNCRPD, okay? Look at the conventions of rights of persons with disabilities. It will provide you all the answers that you need, the huge doorway of human rights. SDG provides you the development doorway, but human rights, UNCRPD, provides you the doorway of everything. It has the answers and the solution to what we need, and Malaysia, we need to progress. And we can do it. I believe it, because every country can do it. Why not us? How are we different? So this is my, all of you. I empower you. I challenge you. That radical move must happen, guys. That's Malaysia.
Yeah, true. So a lot of people are reluctant to open up about their mental health situation, but there is also a pattern in this, which where women are more frank and open up to share or reach to their close one compared to compared to men. If we often hide or bottle up, how are they feeling? And by the time it is acknowledged, is it often too late? So I would like to ask Cik Puan and Dr. Hazli, so what could be the reason behind men not reaching the right platform or practitioner when they have issues of mental health?
Sorry, Putri, I couldn't hear you. You died out there for me.
Okay, sorry. So I repeat the question. So what could be the reason behind men not reaching the right platform when they have issues of mental health?
Okay, thank you.
As compared to women.
Okay.
Welcome.
Firstly, I just want to address that it's been shown that one of the main ways that in a society, we can enhance and encourage men to open up a bit more is for us women also to be non-judgmental. Oftentimes men are raised in households where the expression of their emotions and feelings plays a huge role in whether or not they will be able to regulate their emotions and feelings later on in life. And that includes seeking out of help. I mean, primarily our cultures, including cultures all around the world, there is more of a stigma and more of a taboo surrounding men asking for help, and that goes back centuries and centuries. We're talking about, from the beginning of time, where men are seen as the providers and the protectors. So there's a fear that if a man has an issue and he reaches out for help, he's no longer able to provide or protect, which is actually a very big misconception. Because in order for any human being to provide and protect and to be able to take care of them, their families or people surrounding them and societies at large, they need to be able to protect and provide for themselves. So self-awareness and knowing when to seek help and feeling comfortable enough to reach out for that help, I think empowering men to understand that what is the meaning of lemah and kuat in society. Adakah meminta bantuan, asking for help, is this still perceived as a weakness? Or is it possible for us as a society to see that asking for help actually requires more courage and more strength than keeping it all inside? Because
Yes, it's
keeping
funny,
it all
like,
inside, we can all
appears to
do.
be
And it can
13.8
implode and it can
billion
affect. There can be a
years
domino effect
old.
on our
Like
friends, on
1.5
our
billion
spouses,
old.
and on our
In another
children.
half
And there
billion
you
years
go.
or
You
so,
start the
the sun will
transgenerational
expand
effects
and
of
probably
having,
evaporate the ocean
repressed emotions.
and make life
But
impossible on
asking
Earth.
for help requires another
Which means
level
that
of
if it had taken
courage,
consciousness 10%
another
longer to
level of
evolve, it would never evolve at all.
self-awareness, but more courage, the courage to be vulnerable. And as a society, if you talk about Malaysia, Putri, we're not exactly a society that is encouraging when it comes to that. And that is why I think it is so important that we do have public figures who are male, who speak out and create awareness. And I believe that, if you look throughout the world in general, public figures have been utilized by media, by NGOs to spread education and spread awareness. If you look at an example that we're all quite aware of, you could just look back and there have been many papers written about this, and you can look it up. Princess Diana is a primary example of someone who, because of her sharing about her eating disorders, etc., it was reported and it was demonstrated that by her sharing, being a celebrity and a public figure, many more people became aware of the severity and the importance of taking care of this particular eating disorder, including my mother. And my father, for example, somebody who's very stoic and very, unable to express his emotions. I find personally that I've seen with him that when he is exposed to public figures, be they politicians, singers, actors, or whoever, who actually speak out about mental health conditions, he can relate to them. He can relate to them because they are expressing that they are human, and because they have such a huge voice rather than the average person. Therefore, they reach more people. But it is how you do it, I think, that ensures whether or not it is effective. And my father, abah okay je, no problem kan. But when I've shown him some of the local celebrity stories or even international, he kind of leans back and you can see the shift in his face, that he goes, well, yeah, I guess men can have problems, abah pun pernah rasa macam ni. So, it does help and it does influence. So I think there needs to be more male figures, public figures, and also, of course, more outreach for men, because a lot of the times, when we talk about feelings and emotions, it's a lot of women doing the work, and I don't see a lot of the men creating maybe perhaps more male-centered campaigns, because at the end of the day, the men need the men to talk to them and make them feel okay about it. Again, I'm probably going to throw this to Dr. Hazli again, because Dr. Hazli is a man. So yeah. I mean, he himself will be able to share with you, kita main ping pong kat sini, Dr. Hazli, but because it does relate to, you're the only man here on speaking. So, how can we increase this knowledge, and, for men?
Yeah, true. So what's your opinion regarding that for as a man?
When there are a big and heavy task to do, men always give to women to do it. So when all the campaign about mental health, give to women, because women can do it better. But I want to highlight the importance of the difference between sexes, sex and gender, because one is a biologically determined, another one is a social construct. For example, Cik Tuan Sarimah mentioned about strong, being a man. The masculinity, the masculine is a social construct, and then very much depend on the culture, the upbringing, and the society as a whole. So that's the reason that the term toxic masculinity come about when men have to behave in a certain way to ensure that they are being seen as manly enough. And then we also, because of the culture, it's not the main dominant, but that is somehow has been kind of tradition. It's not bad about it as well, if we understand or we use in a right way. But again, for us to understand that sometimes it's not biologically determined, but it's more of the social construct, which the good thing is can be modified. For example, men cannot cry or shouldn't cry. But I remember when a football club lost 5 times, lots of men cry. How come? It means that men can cry.
Why is that?
For the reason that they think is manly enough for them to show it. So then we again come back to what? Come back to the prevention and the parenting. To me, that's how cannot highlight the importance of that for us. And then for men want to seek help, even though a lot of studies, research show that there are differences between men and women in terms of the health-seeking behavior. As Putri mentioned, that women tend to seek help, rather the man is wait a little bit later. That also explains the incident of suicide. Yeah, a lot of women attempted, but the men completed suicide more than women. So meaning that maybe once they decided they will do, the intention is very strong, and then they manage successfully do it. So it means that the depression also is quite high among men, but they do not seek help. And then we tend to blame men for not coming to seek help without we find out what make men don't want to seek help. Maybe they don't have the platform, as Cik Puan and also Anita mentioned. Also, there is no platform for men to come and share their struggle. The platform or the services is not man-friendly for them to open up, because we know the fact that when they want to cry, they can cry. When they want to open up, they can open up. So we need to find a way, the service, the availability of the services tailor or match the needs and make it even more man-friendly. For example, talk after the game, having the conversation about this kind of emotion, not emotion, the feeling, no, but the issues that related to mental health that not considered as soft enough for men to talk about it. We talk about what? The functionality, the work, the way they're not able to perform as a result of they having the psychological issues. And then when men don't like to engage in conversation about feeling, but they want to talk about functionality, which very much impact because of the psychological issue that they have. Men want to talk about solution. They don't want just talking about let it out, let me validate your feeling. They want that, but they want us to talk about, tell me, how can I solve this issue? So we have to marry between of these. So that is the important for us to understand what man needs. Some more, yeah, there is not much platform for men to do that. We have how many International Women's Day? Anita, tell me how many days for women? Almost every day is the Women's Day. But how many days that we want to celebrate for men? Not many. So, and then we know also the platform is not that many. The accessibility is not that high when they already want to seek help, and then they are not friendly enough for them. Lepas tu kata, amboi, takkan semua nak ikut man. No, we have to be mindful about that. The important for us is to increase the accessibility to detect early. So sometimes when we are talking about gender inequality, the way our good intention, without we realize it can lead to further the gender inequality itself. So the important for us to remember the good intention not necessarily lead to the good outcome. That is the important for us to do research, evidence-based, the right methodology. So that is we have to balance between the data and also the anecdotal data from the life experience. Both are important. And then we need to also to look into the good intention translate into the good outcome. So that's the whole idea that we need to do when we are talking about men's mental health. We need to really address this issue. And then the good thing is we start to realize this. And you know that there is also a kind of support group for men against toxic masculinity. It's not just to and the whole idea for me, the whole idea about we need to emphasize on the men's health and men's mental health, besides to make a man become a better man, but again, for us, for men to be a better man for women. Because why, Cik Puan and Anita and Putri? Because women deserve a better man.
Yeah, true. I do agree about that one. Your opinion on regarding the men women need a better man, is it? Okay.
Putri, can I
So
just
moving
insert a little bit there?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I totally agree with Dr. Hazli said. We've had numerous conversations about that previously. And I always say, men are the leaders of society. And even within our religion, they are seen as the leaders of the family. So if the leaders are not in a good headspace and in a safe emotional space, then we often complain, when we see a lot of cases of abuse or domestic violence, etc. Not to say it doesn't happen. Obviously, it happens to both sides, it's vice versa. But a lot of men are also victims of abuse and mental, emotional, but it's unreported. So the numbers perhaps obviously they don't depict the reality. I personally know of some friends whose partners, be it girlfriends or wives, have mentally or emotionally or sometimes physically hurt them. And as a result of repressing that, because rasa malu kan, then they take it out on the children. And then, we as society, we're very quick to look at the results and ask ourselves, kenapa dia boleh buat macam tu? Tiba-tiba tergamak ayah sendiri buat macam tu kan? But the question is, what was going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about that led to this kind of behavior? So I'm just saying, we need to open our minds up a little bit more and be less judgmental. Again, about prevention being better than the cure, of course, for everything.
Yeah, true.
So, Putri, can I thank you, Cik Puan, for mentioning it. I want to just add a little bit more. Okay, for example, consider the abused spouse, right? A man is the abuser, right? When we look back into the past history, they could be the one who are being abused or witness the abusive incident that happened within the family, or they could be the one who being raised by a single mother who does not have a role model to follow for them to be able to be the better man. So that's the reason that it's important for us to find out and understand what made this person became such a aggressive individual. But at the same time, we have to support and protect the victim as well. It's not like we said that the abuser have a reason. Yes, we need to help the abuser, but at the same time, whatever the behavior was wrong, and then we need to protect and remove the blame of the victim to think that they are the one, because sometimes it's easier for the culture, kesian lah. I mean, that a lot of the victim of abuser, when they start to share, and then even when the incident happened so long time ago, they are being told, tak payahlah, forget about it. That is not right to do, because they need to talk about it. When they're ready to talk about it, they need to be supported. So the whole idea is we should not, with the mentality or the mindset of punishing, but with the idea of rehabilitation. But again, something wrong is still wrong, and then we want to understand so that we can prevent the person from continue to be abuser in the future. But what they did was wrong, and then we need to validate it was wrong, and then the victim need to be supported. So that's the whole idea of the holistic, not just one way to look at it. And then that is the way we want to improve for the future. Thank you, Cik Puan, for brought up the issue. I think it's something we really need to look from a different perspective.
Yeah, true. So this last week, I saw lots of posts on social media, including Instagram, Twitter, and also Facebook including. So there's a lot of people who posting about the mental health illness issues for men also. So everyone is have a well awareness about mental health issue for men in this community. So since MCO started on 18 March 2020 in Malaysia for COVID-19 outbreak, there is a few people affected by this lockdown, especially for women who has emotional distress due to loneliness, either for a single or married woman. So as we know recently, there are some issues related to postpartum depression that have gone viral. From your point of view, Puan Anita, what makes it different between the new generation and old generation mothers that contribute to this kind of difference opinion?
Sorry, difference of opinion in what again, Putri?
So from your point of view, what makes it different from the new generation and old generation mothers that contribute to this kind of difference in postpartum depression?
How is it different, postpartum depression in the woman?
Okay, so because of the the viral from the video viral, that there's like some people who mention, oh, before this orang ada 10 anak pun tak ada pun sampai postpartum depression, but then people right now kenapa tak boleh macam tu.
Okay, faham. Okay, okay, thank you very much. Okay, no, actually that's not true. I think the older generation, it was because of lack of knowledge, obviously, lack of knowledge, awareness, dan sebagainya. So dulu-dulu kita selalu cakap when a person goes through it, dia meruyan sebenarnya. Padahal it is in actual fact a medical condition kan, which equals to, it could be postpartum blues, kita ada postpartum depression, kita ada juga postpartum psychosis. So a lot of people typically go through postpartum blues kan, so 80% of women. So usually when it happens, then after 2 weeks lepas tu hilang kan, and then you start enjoying the baby, the experience, and you go through your confinement process. Although I have to say, in my experience, confinement is harder than giving birth for me. It's very challenging to be, dalam pantang in confinement for 44 days too. And postpartum psychosis, that is of course, I think another disorder where a lot of people are highly stigmatized when they go through this condition. It's usually because you don't know that the person is going through that, and the person themselves also do not realize this, and usually something happens and then it's too late in that sense, right? So I think in terms of awareness, we have progressed. I think a lot of people now understand about postpartum depression more, not necessarily postpartum psychosis, although maybe that awareness and discussion isn't orang kata heard or discussed a lot about. And of course, postpartum blues, more people understand about it as well, I think, among the women. So it's not that, older generation tak ada, tetapi it's because of the awareness yang kurang sebenarnya. So selalu, the news that we hear about, the woman, ending the life of the child, etc., etc. Tapi sebenarnya it is a condition. If treated, you can go through that recovery process. Tetapi you need the support. Going through the confinement period, there's a lot of things that happen tau. Especially when you are a first-time mother, macam Dr. Hazi kata tadi kan, it's a trial and error juga tau as a parent, because usually with the first child, we don't know a lot of things. So kita cuba, we try a lot of different ways, a lot of different methods to teach our child, to raise our child. And then we know, okay, you did the mistake with the first one, let's not repeat it for the second one. So it's also a trial and error in that sense juga, unfortunately. Tapi I also feel that there are a lot of parenting courses today. There are also a lot of parenting books. So kita patut orang kata learn, seek that knowledge so that we are more prepared. Even breastfeeding, I see a lot of mothers also have challenges in breastfeeding, because we need to be prepared. We need to be mentally prepared, but we also need to be prepared in terms of knowledge so that we know how to do it well and it is effective for our child as well in that process kan. So there is a lot of thing that needs to be learned sebenarnya. Tapi yang paling penting kan Putri, actually mothers, they need the support. Jadi kepada para suami, siapa-siapa youth yang belum jadi suami, please support your wife in that process. Kalau nak bangun tengah malam tu anak menangis, tolonglah bangun juga, bantu isteri. Nanti isteri tu dah lah dalam pantang, lepas tu tak apa lagi nak jaga mental health, lepas tu takut badan tak kurus-kurus. So there's a lot of process kan, there's a lot of things. So for me, seek that knowledge, be that support system. You know, not only does a mom become a mom, but the husband becomes a dad. So it is a process, it is an experience. The challenges, both orang kata husband and wife can work together as partners in that process, macam tu. So postpartum depression, sekarang ini more awareness, very very happy, and I think more can be done to help.
Yeah, true. Because about
Putri, Putri, I just want to add, when you said that last time we don't have a postpartum, as Anita said, it's not, there is no social media to report it. I mean, we don't aware about it, but we know that they cope differently. As an example only, how many cases of melatah that we now latah. Latah now happen when they want to appear on TV only lah. But last time latah is the way for them to cope.
Yeah.
So to cope with some of them, so that is why the latah is called culture bound syndrome. But we did not see that often nowadays, because women have a different way to cope with all the psychological issues that they have. So the statement said that, oh, last time anak 10 pun tak ada. Last time kan orang perempuan tu kata hantar tak nak pun anak 10, tapi nobody asked them whether they want 10 kids or not.
Tapi sebenarnya, you know, Putri Dr. Aziz, thank you for pointing that out. I forgot to answer that. Actually sebenarnya apa yang berlaku, because my late mother-in-law, she has 12 children, and this was one of my questions to her juga dulu. You know, how did you cope with having 12 children? Because she had, you know, one after every 2 years. And you know, and duduk dekat kampung, you know, not very much money, and you know, only my late mother-in-law was working, supporting the whole family. So she told me what actually happened was she had a lot of support. Sebab apa? Sebab masa tu ada banyak budak-budak kilang, kerja kilang. So she let them rent a space in the house so they could help her out with the house chores. So they helped out gosok baju, tolong lipat baju, all these different things. So please don't think that they didn't have the support with the 10 children, 12 children. They also had the support differently, and also because it's, you know, a very nucleus family as well, where they have, you know, siblings come to help. You know, auntie datang tolong, the grandmother datang tolong. So it was very different back then as well. Sekarang ni kita duduk rumah, neighbor sebelah rumah pun tak kenal, you know, that kind of thing. But during the time, it was a very close-knit, even neighborhoods, kan, villages. So people came about and helped one another. So that was how people could go through it, kan, sebenarnya. Putri, Dr. Aziz, Cik Puan Sarimah dan semua. So I feel that that support system that made that difference juga sebenarnya.
Yes, true. So, as you mentioned, kan, orang the old generation actually don't expose to the knowledge actually, kan. That we need the support system. That's why Dr. Haziq also mentioned that orang lama bukan dia cara dia handle dia berbeza, the different way. So, I want to ask to Cik Puan Sarimah. So, what's your opinion regarding this issue? Because you have mentioned previously that you have the experience of postpartum depression, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion regarding that?
Yeah, that's correct. Most of the media and the interviews I did in the last 2 years have been focusing on that. And it's actually why I choose to advocate publicly. Because of my experience and because I felt like no one had really come out and talked about it openly. So I feel that postnatal depression is something that is very much a holistic approach that's needed, you know, as mentioned by Puan Anita and Dr. Hazli. The holistic approach, again, is what's required for any condition. So I went through severe postnatal depression and quite severe postnatal panic and anxiety. It happened to me suddenly. It happened to me when my daughter was 3 months old. But when I look back now, it wasn't really sudden. It was just that I had so many coping mechanisms in place that I did not know that I actually was suffering from it. My mother had also previously suffered from it, but her way of coping back in the older days was, again, support from her siblings, duduk rumah ramai-ramai. So there was no sense of isolation, Whereas with me, after I gave birth, I came home. We live in a condo. It was just me and the baby and my husband. So rasa macam terkejut. It was such a shock to my body and to my mind and to my heart that I was no longer the same Sarima anymore, that I did not know how to behave. It was as if like I didn't have a script anymore. Like the old me wasn't there anymore. And so what I did to cope was I tried to lose weight really fast. I tried to over-exercise to distract, but I didn't talk to anybody about these feelings. I just simpan je. Because I felt like talking about it, maybe I felt like I wanted to appear strong. And that's often what happens with a lot of mothers. Because you have a baby, kan? I never had a baby before, so I didn't know how to cope. I was like, what do I do? Okay, ikut buku lah kan? Or follow what's supposed to happen. But nobody tells you how you should mentally and emotionally adjust to the process. And there is not a lot of information out there, especially in Malaysia. And what I believe we need are more specifically campaigns that are focused on specific issues like eating disorders, postnatal depression, not like lumping it all together, tau. Macam, because every condition has a different requirement. Obviously, men also play a huge role. I mean, if you get married one day and your wife is going through postnatal depression and she's crying or screaming and she can't take care of the baby, what are you going to do? My husband had to be there for me, and he had to also get therapy to help him through the process. So guys, it's not just for the girls, you know. So for me, I had to take medication for a short period of time, but nonetheless, to help me to stay calm so that I could put in the support systems required. Talk about it, reach out, be with my therapist, and actually, I just needed to take a break and relax and allow myself the time to heal, which I didn't. Pressure kan? Nak cantik cepat, nak perfect, nak nampak macam, wah, ibu-ibu yang hebat kan? And I wasn't able to do that. And, you know, I felt like a failure, like I wasn't good enough. So that made me panic and I couldn't breathe and it was awful. But thank God, alhamdulillah, with my husband actually is the one who drove me to the clinic in the middle of the night at 12 a.m. And he's the one who was there for me. And then the doctors and the therapists, and then my close friends. So it was a holistic thing, Putri. You know, if it ever happens to you, and I hope it doesn't, it is a holistic approach to help you get through it. And you can come out of it as long as you get help. But I do believe in terms of education, my mother, who's from Ireland, she did not seek help when she had postnatal depression. And that's in Ireland. And I asked her why, and she said, because it just wasn't spoken about. Bayangkan, kalau kat sana pun, you know, she said, you just picked it up and you just continue je, tahan je benda tu. And I wonder if because of that, my mom later in life suffered a lot of depression and anxiety. Mungkin sebab dia tak dapat rawatan kot. And then, you know, in a lot of families, the postnatal depression is projected onto the children. So anak-anak kena pukul, kena marah, suami kena. And it's not that anyone's to blame here, but it is a very tricky situation that requires treatment with a professional and a support system. Yeah. I think you're muted, Putri.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Cik Puan. So I want to share with you guys because I am a freelance volunteer. So I have the experience in PPV before. So we need to encounter some of the patients that vaccinees there. So we want to ask them what medication did you take. So in order to know that they are suitable to take the vaccine or not. So I asked them, do you take any medication? And then tell me that, I have depression. And surprisingly, there's a lot of people from youth and also older generation also. So when I see them like very stable family, which I think oh dia ni mesti tak ada masalah. But then I actually feel so surprised because I think, this like the woman actually 70 something and also like 93 years old, and they have suffered the mental illness too, and it is severe mental illness. So the family send her to the doctor, to the psychiatrist when things are getting serious. So what's your opinion regarding that, for Dr. Hazli or Puan Anita, about the experience for older generation and also youth who suffer as yes?
Oh, sorry, it's going in and out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what's your opinion for the older generation and youth who suffers this problem at the young age?
Well, I think from what you've just said, you've just described that there's no actual face to a mental health condition or illness. We cannot categorize it as it looks like this. Some of the most high performing individuals that I know, some of the VVIPs that I know, are battling with their own mental health conditions. It's just not beknownst to the public. And various ages, from children to, as you said, a 90-something-year-old, individuals. There is no actual age that you can place. Just like for any physical condition, you could cut yourself or you could have an underlying health condition at any age. It all depends on various factors, kan? Again, sejarah hidup plays a huge role in, your well-being as well. But if we're talking about the present circumstances of what you can do, what's in your power is getting a mental health screening, getting an actual diagnosis, and seeking out help. These are some of the things that you can do in the present moment, irregardless of your family history. Yeah, so I believe that you cannot place a face. Tak ada race, tak ada agama, tak ada umur yang boleh menggambarkan masalah kesihatan mental. It is so normal for every human being to have suffering and to have joy in life that, we can't generalize it. So it doesn't surprise me, your experience.
Yeah, correct. So I also encountered like some of their children actually when her mother told us that she suffers in depression. Then the doctor said, janganlah bagi tahu, malu. I was like, oh yeah, the saving face cultures in Asia. So Dr. Hazli and Puan Anita, do you have any point of view regarding the stigma that all the children have, like bukan family je, bukan the parents only think like, oh tak payahlah bagi tahu orang, but including the children, because they think that kita tak dapat tolong dia punya parents macam tu.
Putri, I think I agree with the person. Janganlah bagi tahu orang. Unless you tell what you have the mental illness, if there is a benefit for you to tell that, for share that. Why you want to let the whole world know that you have depression? You didn't tell the whole world you have diabetes. You didn't share all this about. So that is also the concept that we need to understand as well. So, and then some of the community is not ready yet. So that is when the things went wrong. In fact, the mother should respect this person's request for not sharing. So if they did that, is something is not wrong in the dynamic of the family already. Both of them need to go and see therapists because something is not right in their household. The whole idea, we don't want to be so pathologize everything also, because we have to look at as a human, we are not perfect. And then important also, as Cik Puan mentioned, that mental illness does not discriminate. We discriminate. And then it's true that Allah is so fair, because you, regardless whether you have factors or whatever contributing factors that whether you have or you don't have, you still can get the diagnosis. You still can get the illness. But be mindful also, even right now in the present, the person maybe does not have all the factors contribute for them to be to have depression. But how about their past? Their past also can contribute, and then they're not going to tell you about their past, right? So that is important for us to get assessment so that they get the right kind of and go make sure that the diagnosis does not limit you from achieving what you want to achieve also. We don't want that, because means that if you got the diagnosis to make you understand about yourself better and then push hard enough for you to reach your full potential. So we don't want the diagnosis to be the limiting factors as well. So the whole idea, the whole concept of understand about this is for us to know who we are, know ourselves better, embrace who we are. We are human beings, have a limitation, but also we have so much asset and potential. So embrace it. So that's what we want to do. But again, there is a time that probably that we need to be vulnerable and get assistance and help. Because, you know, sometimes when we are being challenged, the challenge is not just for us, but it's a lesson for people around us as well. And then, for example, if you are too perfect, you are managing everything okay, so when are you going to give the chance for people to help you? So other people also need pahala also, Putri. They need to go to heaven also, because that's when you are not, you need help, and then people are able to provide the assistance. Wow, they feel good, because it seems like Putri is
person is old and then they are clinically diagnosed with a mental health condition. Usually the willpower of the elderly person has deteriorated so much. And also when a as well, like Dr. Hazli mentioned tadi kan, when we are reaching out for the help, it is important to choose who we talk to, who we open up to, because only the people that we trust tu satu, tetapi know how to respond in a positive manner, maknanya holding that space tetapi validating, you know, whatever that we're going through, because validation sebenarnya that's key. Lepas tu coming from that place of empathy and also compassion, even if you lack the knowledge, kan Putri, even if you don't understand, you don't understand at all about mental health disorders, because obviously it's very difficult to understand unless you yourself have gone through it, kan. Tetapi if you have that empathy, if you have that compassion, if you are holding space and validating what the person is going through, that in itself, let me tell you, not only can help the person to reduce whatever it might be, kan dia punya fear, anxiety, panic, you know, overwhelming thoughts yang dia ada, tetapi it can also help to save a life, because a lot of people that do battle, you know, suicidal thoughts, ideation ataupun contemplate suicide sebenarnya have openly said that they felt that nobody was there for them to listen, to hold space sebenarnya. Jadi ini bagi saya perkara yang sangat penting. Jadi untuk orang tua-tua pun sama sebenarnya, for the elderly, hold that space for them, kan. Sometimes we feel very helpless. Kadang-kala bila it's our own family member, it's easier for us to feel frustrated, to feel angry. Tapi dengan orang lain, you know, we say a lot of different things, kan. Tetapi for our family members, I think it's very standard and typical, kan. With our own family members, kita lebih keras, macam tu. Itu sebenarnya yang berlaku. So to me, if we are able to hold that space, we are able to not to be judgmental or not quick to judge, especially when we lack the knowledge, I think that in itself can help a lot of people, not just the elderly, the adults, and even and especially children, because a lot of children have reached out for the help in MIASA during this trying times, during this pandemic. 12 and 14 years old, paling ramai sebenarnya. And I am very happy with social media. Because of social media, they are able to get or reach out for the help, and we are able to link them. That means the family members, the parents, with them to have that conversation, and also with us together, so children can get the help. Tapi obviously untuk kita nak bantu tak boleh, because they're underage, tapi at least we can, you know, help to link that. So this is what we've seen, and children need validation. Children need to be heard. We did a survey 2 years ago, and a lot of children, we did it for adolescent 10 to 19, and we also did it for college students, and you know, hundreds of people responded, children responded, saying that they felt that they were not heard, they felt invalidated. Parents, you know, were very dismissive when they expressed, you know, their concerns and mental health challenges. They said, you know, we go through mental struggles as well. You know, we are very stressed out. We don't want you comparing us. So all these different pressures and stressors are being expressed by children, and they want to be heard. So as parents, again, we need to provide these spaces, do not be dismissive, understand that they too go through, struggles. Macam Dr. Hazi katakan tadi, the first step is not to be, not a blame game, tetapi understand there is an issue, how do we address it, and let's go ahead and address it. Sebab kalau di baru mental health issue, we can do something about it fast, providing the intervention, kan, holding the space. Tapi kalau it has already become a mental health disorder, really take it from me, a person with lived experience, you don't want to have a mental health disorder. There's hope, you can recover, yes, tetapi the process is very painful. It's excruciating pain that people cannot see. A mental health condition, guys, let me tell you, kepada anda yang belum ada penyakit mental, ia adalah sesuatu yang sangat perit, sangat sakit, tidak boleh dilihat dengan mata kasar, tidak boleh digapai sebenarnya dengan minda normal. So this is how debilitating it can also get if you don't get the treatment early enough, and if you don't have a solid support system. So if you don't have it, please be a support system or a supportive friend or family member to someone else that is struggling, especially now. We're all going through the same storm, but obviously different boats. Tetapi a lot of people are going through mental health struggles today. So kita kena sama-sama bantu-membantu dan saling menyokong, insyaAllah.
Yeah. Thank you, Puan Anita, Dr. Hasan, and Puan Selma for your own point of view regarding this topic. So I would like to open the floor if there are any delegates who would like to ask question yourself to the speakers. Please raise your hand. The team will help to unmute you, introduce yourself, and also shoot your question. Don't forget to open your camera, okay? So, but before that, I saw some question from the chat box, and any of the participants, if you would like to drop any comments or any questions regarding this topic, you can drop at the chat box below. So the chat box got questions since the session started. One of the question is by Safiuddin. So there are some backlash on the increase of awareness among society. One of it, some companies start to ask the history of mental illness during interview, and those who had will count as incompetent and not be selected. So my question, where we can report or seek help if this thing happened to us? He asked to Cik Puan. So the question is, where we can report and seek help if this thing happens.
Thank you. I don't think we can report and seek help because if you're going to report it, you're going to have to know exactly, what the job position you were looking for, and you're going to need more details because every employer also has the right to ask questions as well. So it really depends on the definition of discrimination. I know that in MIASA provides assisted employment support and also does follow up with supporting and has all the employment contacts and people, and of course the majikan that will understand people with conditions. So perhaps Puan Anita would be able to elaborate further on this.
Right, thank you very much, Cik Puan. Sebenarnya kan, actually, Putri, if a company has, for example, a report of people having mental health disorders, actually they should report it to DOSH. And the reason for this is because something needs to be done about it. Something in the sense where we can provide reasonable accommodation and adjustments. But if the employer is asking about the history of the person and then labeling them as being incompetent, then obviously that is not right. And you can make that same report as well. The fastest thing that you can do is you can report it to our Stigma Watch platform. We have a Stigma Watch platform on our website. Please go ahead and do that, because once you do that, it will be tabulated and the media will pick it up. And then the discussion, you can widen the discussion about it, and that is what needs to happen, obviously. I think it's very sad, because then what we're seeing is there's stigma, and this wasn't the idea of the awareness of Dania, because, on a daily basis, MIASA does talks at corporations, maybe a lot of times behind the scenes. You guys don't see this on our social media, but a lot of employers today are actually, I don't know how many does what you just said or the question just asked, but a lot of employers today are very proactive in engaging with mental health professionals, NGOs, because they want to do something about it. They want to help their employees, because we're losing employees to absenteeism. They're not able to be productive in the workplace if we are not supporting their mental well-being, and we just need to be supportive of that. They need time out like someone that has a physical condition, right? So the benefits, the reasonable adjustments and accommodation must be given, like how we provide it to anyone else that has a physical condition. So I think that even EAPs, employee assistance programs via corporations, a lot of them are doing it at the moment, having peer support groups at the workplace, having continuous awareness programs. Mental health assessment is being done in a big way right now in many corporations. Very happy to see that. And, in being a responsible employer, which we have, told a lot of employees, is after you do the mental health assessment, in actual fact, if there are many of your employees having results of severe, extremely severe, please provide the intervention. So they are doing that at the moment. There are helplines coming in, there are counseling services, therapy, peer support. All these different interventions are coming through in the workplace sebenarnya. So I think with awareness, there probably are going to be the small little bit of employees, but the bigger chunk, I believe, is still more about helping their employees, sebenarnya, Putri and everyone. And thank you so much for asking the question.
Putri, can I just add that I do have a family member who's struggling and has experienced difficulty in getting employment due to some mental health challenges. The thing is, what I've noticed is whenever this family member does get employed, and whenever this family member offers information about the mental health conditions that are faced, the employers, fortunately, alhamdulillah, have agreed to still employ. It's just that their expectation of the performance later on causes some issues, of course. So you see, there's kind of like I've spoken to this family member. It's like a catch-22 in some way, because let's say your mental health condition doesn't allow you to stand on your feet for long hours, but yet you go for a job where you know that you have to stand on your feet for long hours. Now, when you're at work, if you can't perform, then it would be unrealistic also to continue to expect the employer to continue to employ you. So if we want fairness for all, it's a difficult situation, because we don't want people who are at the workplace, for example, who worked with my family member, making complaints and saying, oh, he or she is so not able to do what I do, but yet gets the same amount of pay. So realistically speaking, if there is a way to pair people with mental health challenges with the more appropriate jobs that they would be able to perform in, this is what I feel is really, really necessary on like a national scale. Just like you would with somebody with a vision impairment, with missing, with paralysis of some sort, or any, condition physically, as Puan Anita mentioned, because you can't expect somebody to perform in a job, and they themselves can't expect to continue to be hired if they are unable to do that job. So we have to be fair from both perspectives, from the employer and the employee's side.
Okay, thank you, Puan, for brought up that issue, because that's the reason in other countries, certain countries, right? They give a tax refund for the company to hire people with disabilities, including mental health, and then they have the company to give the same salary, because that's important for the self-esteem of, and then the right for the person. But having said that, it's unfair for the company to give the same salary if the person perform only 60% of other people who perform 100% of their workload. So that's what happened. The government pays some amount of salary through the fund, and then the company pay like 60%, 40% come from the government, so that the person still have get the same salary with the reduced amount of workload. So it's kind of fair to the person, to the company, and also the government can continue helping this person, because the person will be in this kind of program for 6 months. After that, reassessment has need to be done, so that we want them to slowly improve and then go back to the 100% again. Sometimes it's not just the employee understanding that important. The workmates, some of the employer, they understand and then they allow and then they support. But the colleague, the peers, once the person has been labeled as having mental health issues, they are being treated differently. So important also for us to look into the environment as well. So that is the top down and the bottom up. I totally agree with Puan Anita when Anita mentioned that nowadays the employer become more mindful and understand about the whole issues of mental health in the workplace due to this pandemic. Why? Because before this, they always believe, or they always put this kind of label for the employee who have issues because they are not strong, they are lazy. But now after during this pandemic, they just realize they also are very much affected. Their mental health has been kind of disturbed, and they are no longer the same person as before. And then interesting enough, before the pandemic, when I do the stress management talk, the one who attended is all the one has been labeled as poor performance. But now when I give the talk, the CEO also attended. I'm pretty sure because they are being affected. So we don't want until we reach to this stage where it's a bit too late. There is an important the element of preventive measure again. We need to teach the employee how to look after their physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and financial health when they are well, not when they are already at risk, when they are already at ill. So that's what we need to do. So don't wait until it's too late. So that's the whole idea about preventions, right? Yeah. So don't wait until you are 40 before you want to know how to look after your mental health. You should learn now. You should have the skill now. So that's the whole idea.
Dr. Azmi, if I may add, actually Gan Perkeso does provide employment where they pay half and the employer pays half. So that is actually available sebenarnya right now as well to help support it.
And then again, Anita, not many people aware about that, because sometimes we have a good kind of program, not many people aware. About the Perkeso also, Anita, I wish that they can do a little bit earlier. They wait until too late, until the person is already being off or being not... but they have been they need to certain period before they're eligible for that. It would be good if they can do earlier, so that they even can reduce or they don't have to go for the prolonged illness leave in the first place. Or during the prolonged illness leave, they already started to start helping the person already, right? Because previously, but it was much better than before. Before they are being terminated from the work, and then the Perkeso start to do the rehabilitation. But now, while the person already still being employed, but they are off work because of the inability to perform. But again, I think not many companies aware about it, because the HR is still the one who responsible for this welfare of the employee. I think the occupational health unit need to take this responsibility even more. But we also aware that how many company organizations are able to have this occupational health and safety unit. But there is a need a different way also, especially to have the SME, small and medium enterprise, right? So the whole idea, we need to figure out, this is the important from the policy maker to find out how they can help, and then the input need to come from the employee to the family members. So that's the way to go. So I think that we are doing better than before, and then we hopefully the progress can be fastened in a certain way.
Yeah, because we have, Dr. Hazikan, we have that 1% requirement sebenarnya for the government sectors to actually take in people with disabilities, including mental health disorders. But the challenge is because there's no enforcement. But although the 1% tu sebenarnya is a very, orang kata, number yang menyedihkan juga, sebab in Malaysia we have about 15 to 20% actually people with disabilities, and a lot of employees don't want to hire groups like this. And so if we just have that requirement, I think that would also help to get people in the workplace. And then when people come into the workplace that have disorders, other people or the normal people then can realize, oh, sebenarnya people with disabilities, mental health disorders can actually work, can be productive, and we can combat stigma that way. So the enforcement pun actually needs to work hand in hand so that people can reintegrate back because the chances and opportunities are not given. So this is the challenge juga sebenarnya. Sebab sebab kalau kita tak bagi the opportunity, then sampai bila-bila pun these people can't enter into the workforce. So if we can set it as a requirement, because that's what needs to be done, then from there, all these things can start to happen. People can come back, can reintegrate, normalizing happens, reduction of stigma happens, then mental health literacy also improves, understanding improves. So still a lot of work, but obviously progressing.
Interesting, Anita, you mentioned about 1%. In Korea, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 15 to 25%, the OKU need to be employed by the company for them to get the tax refund for the organization.
All right. There's a huge difference there.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, can we move on to our delegate question? I believe one of our delegate. So, Mr. Wan Nong, are you there?
Yeah, sure.
Can you please introduce yourself first and shoot your question to
All right. Awesome. Okay, so I'm Wan Nong Daniel. You guys can call me Daniel. I'm from Nyawa. All right, so first of all, thank you, Dr. Hazli, Ms. Anita, and Cik Puan Sarima for the awesome sharing session. All right, so my question to you guys is, remember how Cik Puan Sarima talked about like how the husband has to be there for the wife during the after giving birth? I forgot the term.
Postpartum depression.
Yeah, postpartum. For that. Like, so what are your take on like increasing the paternal leave for the husband?
Oh my goodness.
Like, in Malaysia, usually like the most effort is probably like 2 weeks like that. But in 2 weeks, apalah sangat compared to like the wife has to go through. So yeah, what's your take? Yeah.
One, let me start after this, Anita. One, if we give like 1 month for husband, how can we be sure that the husband really helping the wife? I'm afraid that if we give 1 month, 1 minggu jaga wife dia, 3 minggu pergi memancing.
Macam mana tu?
How are we going to enforce that? Memancing ikan tak apa, memancing orang yang saya takut.
Jangan.
Betul. During my time when I was in corporate, paternal leave waktu tu 3 hari. And I heard a lot of complaints from the wives sebenarnya, so from my colleagues, because they needed their husband to be there at least, seminggu, 2 minggu to really help out while, they just only gave birth. They needed the rest, etc. And especially those that didn't have other ataupun extended family members nearby them. So for me, 2 weeks dah okay dah tu sebenarnya, Daniel.
Daniel, I think that, to answer your question, you've got to look at, I of course agree with what Dr. Hazli said. But that comes down to every human being's choice lah kan. Kita mengharapkan husnuzon lah, dah bagi sebulan tu insyaAllah jaga isteri dengan anak kan. But we can't control human behavior. What we can do is empower and we can provide, because it is something that I've seen in my family and friends as well. And I think that it is such a huge importance that the man, the father, the husband is there, not just for the physical existence of support, but also the mental and emotional support. Of course, given that he does and is able to provide that, let's husnuzon and say that he is, okay? I believe that, men are able to do that. But I mean, the support system that is given, is so crucial. Like for me, for example, if my husband had not been there for me after my delivery and through my postpartum depression, I don't know how I would have coped, Daniel. I really don't know, because he was my most trusted individual in the world, still is. And so he was the safe place for me to go to when I was having a panic attack or I did feel like I couldn't think. And, you know, if he was at work the whole time, how was I going to be able to call him, interrupt his meetings, etc.? So we were very fortunate that he did have the time off to do that and work from home. So I mean, it is so important that men are given a much longer period. If you look at countries in other countries in the world, like in Europe, and we look at Lithuania, Hungary, example, some of them have up to like 150 weeks off work. Sweden, Iceland. I mean, these are countries, and there are huge correlations between, you know, the impact on postnatal depression recovery and the existence of a supportive spouse. So the key word there is supportive too, though, isn't it? So I do believe that we definitely need to look into that. 3 days, what can you do in 3 days? You know what I mean?
Also,
When we
Daniel,
say,
Daniel,
Yeah.
on that serious note, before we increase the number of paternity leave, what we need to do is we need to improve the syllabus of pre-marital course,
Yes,
khusus
I agree.
perkahwinan, di mana we have to include the module for how to be a parenting skill a little bit. Banyaknya munakahat saja. Situ saja yang duk belajar. We have to know how to look after the marriage, the communication between couple to reduce the divorce rate. And then we need to talk about the family planning a little bit, you know, that, and then the role of husband and wife. So give the idea, the responsibility of the men when they're going to have a baby, when they're expecting. Once they have that knowledge, and then we give them the reward or the privilege. If we give the privilege too fast, knowing men, they know how to use it for their benefit.
Yeah, and like
But-
also,
sorry,
Sorry.
Daniel, just really quickly, but it's not just for, you know, because if we talk about this, then it's not just specifically for people that go through postpartum depression. Any mental health condition, you know, especially where, you know, they're really in severe crisis, they don't know how to go through their condition. We do need a support system. People that go through chronic mental health disorders as well. So let's not just limit it to one condition only, because, you know, anyone that goes through a mental health disorders, you know, they too need their support system. It could be the husband, you know, the children, the mom, the husband, whoever that, you know, might be. So I think we need to really understand that every person going through their struggles need that support to come in. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
also, like, I believe besides the stigma where for example, like man has to be strong and all, there's also the stigma that I noticed that surrounds Malaysia especially, is that like men are not caregivers. So like one proof to prove this is actually like, all right, we talk about job equality, that a woman can do whatever a man can do, but we overlook that the fact that, for example, places like pusat jagaan kanak-kanak or places where babysitters and all, they do not accept men to work there because there is this stigma that men cannot take care of children or anything. But like looking at, there is news and all on women abusing children, like there's more of that than men abusing children and all. So like that is one stigma I believe we have to remove as well, the fact that how men are not caregivers. Yeah.
I agree. Again, you know, as I said, you know, there's no face and there's no gender, no religion, and no to anything in life. Everybody's susceptible to any type of behavior. There's not only good and bad, there's also a gray area in the middle for men and women. So women can do damage and men can do damage. And I do believe in other countries, men are accepted as caregivers in many of the jobs that are available in childcare, etc., nursing and whatnot. And it is, again, it comes down to the different cultures and acceptances. Perhaps in developing countries such as ours, there's a different need and a different importance placed on the jobs and the roles for men. Perhaps, only in my opinion, we're not at a point where men are able, it's not seen as so essential for men to be caregivers when there are so many women able to do the job, and whereas we need the men to be still mainly providing, perhaps.
Thank you. Thank you. So it is such a great discussion. Thank you to Wong Daniel for your great question. So, but the time is somehow jealous with us, so we need to conclude everything. Sorry to everyone, to all the participants and also delegates. We will come forward and we will looking forward to see you in the next session for the next NALS dialogue. So as the session is coming to the end, what is your final say to youth today? Just one sentence from Dr. Hazli, Cik Puan Sarima, and also Miss Anita. Do you have any last word?
Okay, okay. Usually they always said ladies first. Tapi since that Daniel kata men's power, let's men start the talk. Okay. Okay. Don't be afraid of making mistake as long that we learn from that. It's not a mistake after all.
Okay. So, Cik Puan or Miss Anita, any last word?
Go ahead, Anita. I'm still thinking of.
Yeah, no, one sentence is quite hard actually. I believe in youth empowerment. I believe youth, you guys have a loud voice, and I hope you guys can use it responsibly. I hope that you can advocate for this cause. Of course, today there are more people advocating for mental health, but I don't see a lot of people advocating for people with mental health disorders from the B40 groups, for example, from my friends or our friends, the homeless folks on the ground that battle chronic homelessness with mental health disorders, our peers in prison, our peers in institutions. So maybe let's focus on the people that are left furthest, because now in society we're talking a lot about the common people, but what about the more vulnerable ones? The more marginalized ones are further marginalized as well. So let's stop this. So you guys as youth, you have a chance to do this, an opportunity to do this. So please, I would like to ask from all of you to have that voice and do something about it. So bukan satu ayat, tetapi that one message, message of action. So my message is a call of action to all of you out there, and I know you can do it. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, Cik Puan Sarima, what is your opinion?
I don't think it's a sentence either. I'm sorry, Putri. It simplifies it too much. I believe that all humans are inherently kind and have empathy. No child is born with the intention to hurt other people. It's what happens to us along the way in the journey of life that shapes who we are. And for the youth and everyone watching, it doesn't matter what age you're at. If you truly are honest with yourself and get to know who you are, I believe that the need to be vulnerable and reach out will come naturally, and you will want to help others who are in need. The problem is we've lost touch with who we really are as individuals, and we wear way too many masks. We're pretending to be other people to fit other people's expectations. But ask yourself who you really are. And I believe from there, you will get the answers for yourself and for society.
Thank you. That's a wonderful sentence and words from all of our speakers today. Dr. Hazli, thank you to Dr. Hazli, Puan Anita, and also Cik Puan Sarima. So in relation to that, a huge concern must be addressed by the experts and policymakers. Even the government has increased the MOH budget specifically for mental health by 70 million to address mental health issues via counselling and psychosocial care, support services, increasing advocacy programs, and promoting civil societies in driving forward the country's mental health initiative in line with Agenda Nasional Malaysia Sihat. Also, a societal change has to begin now to suppress this issue. Mental health awareness is needed now more than ever to create an effective support system. Resilient youth, better nation, happy life. Thank you, and I'm passing over to Zurin, to the host. Please, I would like to tell us to all the speakers to stay to the end of this session to have a photo session with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Putri, and thank you again to all our speakers and the moderator for the wonderful and insightful sharing. Now, if I may ask, we will proceed to the next agenda, which is the photo session. Everyone, I would like to ask to please switch on your camera and give your brightest smile. Your cooperation is much appreciated. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, everyone, please be ready for the formal photo.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay, next ready for the freestyle photos.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, done.
Thank you so much, everyone. And attention to everyone, please do fill up the survey form in the chat box given by one of the committee members. Thank you. So to proceed to our delegates and attendees, we will have a 2-hour lunch break before we continue with the next NALS Dialogue 2, which is the Understanding Power, the People's Power in the Incompetence Weakness. So please be ready 10 minutes early before the session and see you guys later. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum. See you again. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.